Welcome in, everybody. Week 2 of the college football season is here. Week 2 of the Hugh Freeze era underway in Auburn. We are counting down to kickoff as the Tigers take a very long road trip all the way to Berkeley, California. Cole Kublik, Simone Eli, we're going to chat everything the Auburn Tigers as we go into week 2 of the season. Let's go head to head. All right, Cole, week 2 of the season. Auburn is going to go all the way over to California. We're going to talk about Hugh Freeze, his takes on that this week as he met with the media for his Monday press conference. But first, I want to get with you about your concerns last week going into game 1. You wanted to see what this team was going to look like when they just finally played together. What did you take away from the game against UMass?
I feel pretty good about just the continuity, the operation of the offense, especially when you're playing two quarterbacks. That can get confusing. You can lose rhythm. You can lose some continuity. But it just felt like there was a consistent plan that everybody on the field had an idea how to execute it. You didn't see a lot of busted assignments and guys out of place. You didn't see defenders being turned free. You saw receivers helping quarterbacks out when the balls maybe didn't have exact placement. Running backs had a really nice idea of the schemes that they were running, being zone or gap scheme, and how to get there and then get north and south and make plays happen. So I thought Peyton Thorne operated the offense extremely well. I thought the usage of Robbie Ashford was brilliant. I think he's someone who can absolutely help this football team win a lot of games. Seems like he's handling it well also. And he becomes just a different threat when he's in the game because he can add a blocker and then obviously utilize his speed, which is legit speed. And so he's a real weapon. And I think still you had some guys that weren't necessarily utilized the way that we thought, like a Rivaldo Fairweather. Didn't see a ton of him, but it's okay. Micah Riley showed some things at tight end. I thought the tight ends blocked well. The ceiling of the offensive line I thought was there, Simone. It wasn't a dominant performance by that group, but just you can see some things that you hadn't seen in a few years. There's just a lot to be excited about on that side of the football.
I like your positivity, Cole. We don't always see that. Sometimes it's more of a realistic take and sometimes comes off as negative for folks. But I like it. I like the positivity you have for your alma mater. You can listen to Cole, of course, on ESPN, SEC Network, and then every day on WJOX. All right, we're talking about week 2 now. Auburn's going to go all the way 2,400 some miles to California. What's the longest road trip that you took when you played for the Tigers? Do you remember?
It would either be Fayetteville or Charlottesville, Virginia. So those are the two farthest. Yeah. No. It was. Longer trips than some others around the SEC, but not to the extent of what this is going to be. This one's different, and playing it at night. This is one of my big concerns about this game is not the actual game, and it's not even the next week, but it's the next week. I think the players are going to really have to do their due diligence as far as recovery is concerned. Force themselves to get rest. Force themselves to try to get back on a normal schedule. I feel like the coaches will probably give them some time off more so than usual. Hey, Simone, you think about after this game is concluded, then they go and they get on the bus and they get to the airport and they fly home and then they get to their dorm rooms. It's going to be 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, if not later on Sunday. So Sunday is a wash. Like Sunday is not a work day or recovery day. It's a nothing day. And then you probably need Monday for a rest day. And then you get back into the groove on Tuesday and get ready to play Samford. So it's that in and of itself will bring some challenges. I know that administration really wanted this game to be earlier in the day to avoid some of that, but we've seen Mississippi State do it at Arizona recently. Georgia went to Arizona State a few years ago. So we've seen some SEC teams do it and have to play late. But the next few days, the next few weeks, it can absolutely catch up to you.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze did not shy away from saying this is something he doesn't like to do. This is why he scheduled East Coast teams. I think he talked a little bit about having to go to BYU, and this is even further in another time zone. So we will see what challenges it presents for the Tigers, not only on game day, but a great point brought up by you moving forward into week 3 as they look to try to recover. What do you think you learned about Hugh Freeze after week 1, now hearing what he had to say on Monday and going into week 2?
Well, I don't know if it's learned, but I think things continue to be proven. And that is that his offense is going to give guys opportunity. And you had multiple running backs. You saw Sean Jackson play a lot. We haven't heard a ton of buzz about his name coming out of camp. He's somebody who I think from a downhill perspective, either as a lead blocker or ball carrier, can help this football team. We saw all 3 quarterbacks play. And then you see guys down the field just have opportunities to make plays. Explosive plays are going to be present in this offense. They're going to utilize tempo. They're going to go fast. Defensively, they rolled a lot of guys in. You see Coach Freeze like strumming the guitar and after the game talking about doing any dance that his kids want to do if they make a big play. You see him rolling Toomer's corner after the game with his family. I just think from an all-encompassing standpoint, he gets it. He is proving to be a fit at Auburn University. And I don't know if those are things that I didn't know, but there are things that continue to be proven by him and his staff. That had another big win in recruiting over the weekend. So there are just all of these things that continue to stack themselves up as to the administration. John Cohen made a great hire when they brought him in. And the schedule's not going to get any easier by any stretch of the imagination, but he continues to do the right things and continues to do the things that are going to get more and more people on board with how he's managing this Auburn football team.
I think we're definitely seeing Hugh Freeze buy in. As much as the guys are buying into him, I think he's buying into Auburn football, and I think that's very important to people who are close to the program, like yourself, fans, donors, and everything of the like. We talked a little bit about the 2-quarterback system, so to speak, that we saw in week 1. And a lot of things that you liked, you feel like Hugh Freeze utilized Robbie Ashford in a great way. Of course, 3 touchdowns proves that. I think we all know that Peyton Thorne has the better arm. Is this something that can work long-term as you get into conference play?
Absolutely. I saw some folks on social media, and I've listened to a couple of podcasts and interviews, and people are saying that Peyton Thorne needs to know how to operate the red zone. Like, why don't we let our quarterback understand how to do things inside the 20? When I was being recruited by Auburn, and this is a long time ago, Patrick Nix was the quarterback, and there was this guy named Damian Craig. When they got inside the 20-yard line, he would come into the game at quarterback, and they would roll sprint outs, and they would run bootlegs, and not even zone reads or RPOs. Those weren't a real thing back then. They had a speed option play. They had a bootleg and a sprint out. He had like 3 plays that he ran, and maybe like a sprint draw. So, and he would come in and he would run the offense in the red zone. And it was basically get outside the pocket. You probably had 1 or 2 reads, and then you had the ability to go run the football. And defenses had to prepare for it, had to be ready for it, and it made Auburn more dangerous in the red zone. I absolutely think this can work long term. Once again, we said it last week. I'll say it again this week. As long as Robbie manages it and handles it correctly. Do I think there was a part of how he was handled in that game where Hugh Freeze wanted to make him happy or make him feel good about himself? Yeah, probably. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like, go out there and make the kid feel like more of a part of the team, show defenses what he can do. Great. I'm all for it. This absolutely can work long term because he brings such a different dynamic. And finding explosive plays is hard. It doesn't matter what level of football you're on, middle school, high school, college, NFL. Explosive plays make differences all the time. And if you have somebody who can generate those, you get them on the field. Robbie Ashford can generate those. He can't operate the offense the way Peyton Thorne can. So find a way to mix them both in there and utilize their strengths.
Yeah, I certainly think it adds another layer of what defenses have to prepare for. And that in and of itself can be a challenge and certainly a benefit for the Tigers. And as we know, Hugh Freeze knows what he's doing at that position. He knows he's done this for a long time. When you look at the dynamic of the two of them, I think Coach was asked, are they getting along? I'm not really sure how the question was phrased. I think I just saw the back end of what he responded, which was it's either going really well or they're faking it really well. It seems as though the maturity between the two of them is working to this point.
It is. And there will be adversity with this. There will be times where either one's playing bad or one makes mistakes, and then you look over your shoulder a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of the pressures come with playing 2 quarterbacks is one guy either doesn't let it go and doesn't go out there and play it up to his ability, or because he's looking over his shoulder and he's always worried about what could happen if he doesn't execute things perfectly, or one guy makes mistakes and the next guy thinks he should be out and he's not. So there will be some adversity with this at some point. But it appears as though those two are handling things exactly the way that you would want them to. And when that adversity comes, that's going to have to stay present. Mm-hmm. And if it does, then this is absolutely something that can continue to work long term.
Did you have a chance to watch the Cal tape against North Texas? It seemed as though, 660, I think, total yards plus some in the air, on the ground. That's pretty impressive numbers regardless of who you're playing. What do you think about this team going into week 2?
Yeah, they have an offense. Well, first off, I think their head coach does a really good job with that team. They've been underrated for a while. They have an offensive coordinator who's been in the SEC, was a head coach at Texas State recently, and was at Texas A&M with Manziel. So he understands how to generate offense, and they can scheme it up. And some of the things they do will be similar to what you see Auburn, Coach Freeze and Coach Montgomery do. They have transfer quarterback and Ben Finley from NC State. They have 2 tailbacks that can absolutely get it. and they move the pieces around and utilize a little bit of tempo occasionally to be able to find and create space. But the run game is what was impressive if you watched them this past weekend. Now, North Texas is a team with a first-year head coach, a lot of transfers that were out, a couple of them at Auburn. There's a tight end at Arkansas. I mean, they got starters from that last year's North Texas team all over the place. So they're a little decimated and down a couple of guys, but it was a solid performance. They get Auburn at home. It's a long trip. There will be advantages for Cal in this game. Yeah. I just think Auburn's more talented. The concerns that I saw more so for Auburn this past week were a little bit defensively with guys being out of place. I saw some defensive linemen being displaced from their gaps, but I saw guys making plays all over the place. So Auburn should go win this game. Now, I'm not going to say that they should blow Cal out. I think Cal has some players that can make plays and can do some things, and schematically I like what they're about. But I don't think by any stretch of the imagination if folks think that this is going to be some Pac-12 team that Auburn's just going to walk through. I don't see that situation at all. I don't think that's the way that this game is going to go for the Auburn Tigers.
Well, that's a perfect lead in to what I'm going to ask you next, and that's your prediction, Cole. What do you think this will look like when 000s hit the scoreboard on Saturday?
One thing I do think Auburn can do is have success running the football, and I think both teams may end up having success running the ball. But I like the presence that Auburn brings at quarterback with both players to be a little bit dynamic at different points in time. And then I think Auburn probably has the edge just in athleticism and overall team speed. I think they're going to have to manufacture a few points. I think both teams can score, but I think Auburn wins this game probably 34-21, and they find and that would be a solid win. You get out of Cal with the W, you get to 2-0 in the Hugh Freeze area, you come back home, you're going to need a lot of rest, and then you try to get set for Sanford, and then obviously the SEC stretch begins after that.
All right, we will see. My prediction, similar, 31-28 rather. Auburn wins. We will see if the Tigers can improve to 2-0 as they hit the road nearly 2,500 miles all the way over to California, a 9:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff. So, Cole, drink some coffee. Where are you going to be this weekend?
I'm in Starkville, so We've got the opposite happening. Pac-12 team coming to Starkville, Jaden DeLara and that high-powered Arizona offense coming in to take on first-year head coach there and a new offense in Starkville. So I'm excited to see it, excited to be a part of it. But I'll have a game to watch the whole drive home afterwards.
You certainly will that. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Head to Head. For Cole Kublik, I'm Simone Eli. We will see you next week.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.